Over the past 2 years, from when I first started trading up until now, I've been able to generate right around $300,000 in payouts across multiple different prop firms. Now, in the very beginning, I was making tons of mistakes, just like every new trader does. However, the difference between a trader who's going to see success in the prop firm industry versus one who's going to fail is whether or not you're going to be able to identify the current problems you're having and actually figure out the solutions to them. And over the past 2 years, that's precisely what I've been able to do. Identify my issues through tons of trial and error, and over time, develop solutions to those problems to get me consistently taking payouts with prop firms. And through working with other traders, I've been able to figure out that the same problems I was making are the same problems that every new and unprofitable trader makes. So in this video, I'm going to go over a few of the common mistakes that I see every new and unprofitable trader making, and also giving you the solutions to those exact problems the same way that I was able to implement them into my current strategy in order to consistently keep me getting payouts over the long haul of the past 2 years. Okay, so the first thing I want to get into here is the actual evaluation stage. This is the stage that you're going to be on most of the time. A lot of new traders and struggling traders find a ton of issues with the eval stage specifically. And it makes sense because that is the start of every single trading account that you ever have. You're always going to start with an eval, and the first problem you're ever going to face in trading is figuring out how to pass evals at a rate that makes sense for you in terms of your revenue versus your cost on the actual prop firms themselves. So the first mistake that I want to look at in the eval stage is sizing too small. This is taking way too small of trades. It's not necessarily contract sizing, but it's more so the size of your stop loss and the size of your take profit. And the reason why this is so important, and also the reason why this is a mistake, is because every single time you take a trade, you are charged fees, commissions, and then there's also the risk of you getting a bad fill on your order. So the more trades you take on these small sized entries, these small sized setups, the more money you're giving back to the prop firm, or back to the market. Basically, it's cutting into your profits every single time you take an entry, every single time you take an exit. This is something that needs to be factored into play. So when you size extremely small, your profits are smaller. Your losses are also smaller as well. However, you're losing more because you're paying fees every single time you take a trade. So it's not optimal to take a million small trades during the eval stage. In the perfect world, you would pass an eval in as few trades as you possibly can. And that is just something that a lot of new traders are not doing, whether it's a mix of fear or they think that they're doing the right thing by like trying to pace themselves and going about it slowly and everything like that, which totally makes sense at the surface level. But once you actually look into it, it truly is a big mistake to try to take a million small winning trades in order to pass your prop firm challenge, because you're making it infinitely harder. Every single fee, every single commission, and then every single bad fill that you get is eating at your win rates and eating at your profit. And over a large sample size and a large period of time, you are going to blow more accounts trading in this conservative manner rather than trading in a much more aggressive manner. So it seems counterintuitive, but it really is more efficient for you to trade aggressively. So now the next thing I want to get into is taking way too long on your evaluation. Now this is something that also eats into your profits, but for a little bit of a different reason. So if you buy an eval and it takes you multiple weeks to pass that eval, that's not necessarily an issue right away. However, that entire time that you're on your evaluation, you have no chance of making back the cost of that evaluation. So even though you're not losing any money by dragging out the duration of your evaluation stage, there's an opportunity cost involved. Because, at the end of the day, we're here to make money. So the longer you're on an evaluation, the more time you are not able to make money. So that's another reason why being as efficient as possible with passing your evals is the most important. And, it brings up the argument for kind of both of these points here, both sizing small and taking too long. People say, well, I'm just trying to learn, or I'm just trying to go at my own pace. I'm not worried about, you know, the actual making money. I'm in no hurry to make money, stuff like that. Um, and then my response to that is, at that point, you should just be backtesting and paper trading. There's no reason to be risking actual capital. Um, if you're still learning, or if you're still, trying to figure things out and like trying to take it slow and everything like that, that is something that can be sorted out during a backtesting session and during paper trading sessions. That is not something, when you actually buy an eval, that's when you're ready to go. Like, you buy an eval and your goal in mind with an eval is not to learn, it's to make money. It's to pass the eval, get to funded, and take payouts. So this whole idea, where the average new casual or bad trader is like, oh, I'm just gonna have this eval last me for the entire month. I'm gonna have it for 30 days and I'm just gonna trade it really slow. Um, this is the ideal person that a prop firm wants to purchase from them, because that's a person who's gonna lose money day in and day out. Every single time they buy an account, they're gonna lose it. Every time they get it to funded, they're gonna blow the funded as well without ever taking a payout. So these are two things that, again, it seems on the surface like you're doing the right thing by sizing small and by taking your time with the eval, but it is really going against you and it is costing you money in the long run. And it's one of the main reasons why you are not profitable is you are hurting your win rate and you are giving yourself zero chance to make any money in the process as well. So my recommendation for the fix to both of these things is to collect data in a backtesting session. So that way, once you get into the actual evaluation stage, you know exactly what you want to do and you can execute aggressively and efficiently, pass the eval quickly, and then move on to the funded stage and ideally treat it the exact same way. And then you can take your payout and then move on to, if you want to buy more accounts or, whatever your goals may be after that point. But from the eval stage, these are two huge mistakes that literally every new trader makes. And even some more seasoned traders also make these mistakes too. And it's one of the main reasons why they stay unprofitable. Now, from this point, I want to move on to the funded stage and go over some of the problems I see traders making in the actual funded stage. Because a lot of people, when I talk to them, they'll say, oh yeah, I can pass evals, no problem. But then once it comes to the funded stage, I'm never able to take a payout. I always end up blowing my funded stage. So the first problem that I see is that people are terrified to blow their account. They pass the evals, and then once they get to the funded stage, they get nervous and they completely change everything that had gotten them up until this point, to actually passing the eval and achieving the funded account. So it leads to a lot of the same issues that people have on evals, to where they start sizing way smaller, and again, that just starts eating at their profits and allows them to basically never be able to take a payout because, you start sizing smaller, you start moving to break even too much, you start taking profits early. All these different things cause problems and do not lead to payouts. They actually lead to the exact opposite. So it's kind of a similar thing on the eval stage, but just the funded stage causes people to just completely lose themselves psychologically. So, like I said before, a lot of the same problems, just sizing too small, taking more trades causes you to lower your win rate, and like you'd be amazed at how much you lose over the lifetime of an account how much you lose in fees and how much you lose in bad fills. Bad fills is probably the biggest one, and that's the one that you aren't able to see. Some prop firms will actually show you how much they've charged you in total over the lifetime of an account in fees, but no prop firm will show you how much their bad fills have negatively impacted your trades. And if that's something you start paying attention to, I think it's going to be really eye-opening as to how bad it can potentially be if you're taking a ton of trades on one single account. It literally can be thousands of dollars over the course of an account's life. It really is that big of a deal, and that's why, just like I said before, it's so important to be efficient, and it's important to come in with a plan and to be confident in that plan as well. So you pass the eval stage, you get to the funded stage, you cannot tighten up, you can't tense up and start changing what got you to that point. And that actually brings me to my next point. And this is going to be changing the actual strategy that got them to pass the eval. So a lot of traders will literally have two completely different strategies. One strategy for passing an eval and one strategy for their funded account and trying to take payouts on the funded account. When in reality, it's okay to have a little bit of a different strategy in terms of actually dealing with the accounts themselves. But in terms of the trades you take, the sizing you take, everything like that should be relatively very similar. You should not be trading your evaluation in one way, and then once you get to a funded account, completely switch up to something different. That just doesn't make sense. If one strategy was better than the other, there's no reason to trade the worst strategy on evals and trade the better strategy on fundeds. One of them is going to be better than the other. So whatever you think your best strategy is, that's the one you should be trading on both the eval stage and the funded stage. And there's really no other way around it. So a mix of psychology and then also strategy wise as well. Basically, it boils down to psychologically, the funded stage instills fear in a lot of people. They're terrified to blow their accounts, which is not the right mindset to have. You need to understand that these prop firms are profitable for a reason. They make money because people blow accounts. The accounts are designed to be blown. If they had a business model to where someone could spend $50 lifetime and take $100,000 in payouts, that doesn't make any sense for them. So you have to think back to a business standpoint. Prop firms need you to be cycling through their accounts. They need you to be consistently buying them, consistently failing them. And that's perfectly okay, because throughout you buying the accounts after you blow the previous ones, and ideally you'll have your strategy set up to where you're taking payouts at a pretty consistent rate. So that taken into play, you don't want to try to act like blowing an account is the biggest deal in the world, because it isn't. Everyone blows accounts, and the accounts are literally designed to be blown. They're not meant to last forever. They're really not meant to last a very long time at all. So the goal is not to keep your account alive forever. The goal is to get your account to where it's eligible to take a payout, and then take the payout, and then go from there. Basically restart the entire process over again, and hopefully continue to take more payouts on that account. But if you don't, that's not a problem, because the way that the prop firms are set up is that you are supposed to have a surprisingly low win rate on both the eval stage and in the funded stage in terms of taking a payout. It's designed to be that way. So don't try to be the person who takes one account and thinks that that's going to last them the rest of their life, because that's not realistic. And if people were doing that, these prop firms would not make any money. So funded stage, in summary, those are the biggest problems. The main thing is psychology. Just fixing your psychology and having confidence going into the funded stage is the biggest issue, because if you're consistently passing evals, you should be consistently taking payouts as well. It's not like the eval stage is any different. You're still taking trades. You have to take winning trades to pass an eval. You need to take winning trades to take a payout. And it really is as simple as that. Okay, so now the last thing I want to talk about is specific strategy problems that I see a lot of traders making, and that is something like risk management, to where they're either taking different risk sizes for different trades, which is something that I definitely recommend against. I think the best way to do it is to have one set risk amount and run that over and over again, rather than trying to like dynamically risk on certain trades, whether you think one setup is better than another one. That really complicates a trading system, and it allows for a lot of room for error. So a much better way to do it is to just size your risk in dollar amount very similarly for every single trade that you do. And then that way, when you collect data on it, your win rate and everything like that, you're going to have really accurate information. If every trade is set up the exact same way, then your data is going to be way more valuable and way more accurate as well. But if every single trade looks different, then it's basically impossible to collect data, because, some trades you're risking $200, some trades you're risking $1,000, some trades you're risking 500. If it's that big of a difference, then the data doesn't help you, because your win rate, isn't going to be reflective of any one type of trade that you're taking. It's going to be reflective of, all of these different individual setups where none of them have the same framing on them, basically. So dynamically changing your risk is something that I would recommend against, especially for prop firm trading, because the way that prop firms are set up, it's really best if you just have a consistent and repeatable system in place, rather than like basically just trying to like eyeball it, or place it under some kind of like, this is an A plus setup, so I'm going to risk more. This is a B setup, so I'm going to risk less. Rather than doing it like that, just have the setups that you think are worth taking and then risk the exact same. It becomes much easier to collect data. Your data is actually valuable to you at that point. And it's just a much better overall way to run your system. And that's exactly what I do as well. When I was first new to trading, I kind of would treat each trade as its own individual thing, where I would set the risk and set the reward really just based on how I felt about that exact trade. But whereas now I have it set up to literally every single trade that I take is going to be a copy of prior trades that I've taken. So, that way everything is simplified for me as well. It takes a lot of the mental and like judgmental work out of it as well. And that's a big goal of mine in trading, is just to simplify everything, because it's already hard enough to do what we're trying to accomplish. So just taking any of the mental stress, or as much of the mental stress as I possibly can out of it, is the goal. So in terms of risk management, dynamically risking on trades is something that I do not recommend, and it's something that I see as a problem that other traders are making as well. And now the other problem I see oftentimes, again, in terms of strategy, is strategy hopping. And this is definitely a problem, because it goes back to not only data collection and, having accurate data, reflecting your actual trading strategy that you're doing. So if you're hopping from strategy to strategy, you're never going to, be able to create a consistent large sample size for you to prove that your system works or doesn't work. So the thing about strategy hopping is every strategy is going to be good sometimes and worse other times. There's no strategy that's always going to be operating at peak performance. It's not realistic. It's not possible. Strategies are going to have good times and they're going to have bad times. So if you immediately quit a strategy the second that it has a bad time, you're obviously not going to be able to see the good times that it has. And this kind of points back to back testing, like I had talked about before. If you have a strategy that you've back tested for a significant amount of trades and you are confident in it at that point, just take those exact same backtesting trades and move it into the live market, and there should be no difference. You should be getting the exact same results, or at least close to it. Obviously, there's going to be some fluctuation and difference between results on a day to day and a week to week, and even a month by month basis. The longer that you're trading a strategy, the better you're going to understand it and the better you're going to be able to actually implement it. So it's not good to be constantly learning new strategies that you aren't going to be trading optimally. And then on top of that, just the whole aspect of you could be trading one strategy during a downtime for that strategy, and then you never even give it a chance to see, the positive side of that strategy, where, the positive side could be way bigger than the negative side, but you quit so early on that you never even got to see, the actual results that you should be seeing. So all of these things that I've just gone over are mistakes that I made when I was first new and bad at trading, and they're mistakes I'm sure you and every other trader has also dealt with as well. But the most important thing we can do is identify these issues and then solve them in order to lead to our success in the future. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and got some good information out of it. If you did and you like the way that I explain this, or you like the way that I trade, I do have a mentorship, a brand new mentorship that I just started up. I'm super excited about it. There's tons of information in there in order to get you guys taking consistent payouts on prop firms. So if you're interested with that, click the link in the description below. Also join the free Discord. We're going to be giving away some accounts. So that'll be cool. Plus it's just a nice trading community to where you can hang out, talk about trading, show your trades, and everything like that as well. So hopefully you guys got some good information out of this video, and hopefully you're able to implement some of this stuff in order to improve your trading as well.